proto framing of saying that, the world has moved from, the world is moving from an old way of doing things to a new way of doing things, right? So, like, so for example, they'll have to make a pitch like this, that Rise the foundation model democratizes the power of AI and puts it in everyone's reach, right? Now, because of this, sales leaders can use the combination of this new trend, which is both the camera as well as AI coming together and making new type of automation possible for sales sets that was not possible before at all, right? And therefore, they should try. And only when you make a very proto framing of saying that the old world was this and the new world is this, if you're still in the old world, you'll get missed out and then you'll become irrelevant and you need to move into the new world. This type of sales is what will get a lot of people excited to come and even try this. So they paint a picture of saying, oh, there is a hyper automated retail economy. And if you're like a top FMCG, you don't want to get missed out by this. And if they have like one or two case studies, putting that as a social proof helps make the sale. So I'll skip that, skip the framework itself. But I would go and say that this is a go-to-market which cannot be done through inbound marketing. You cannot expect people to come to the website. You cannot expect them to try it out there. You will have to go out, seek out these people, do that thought leadership, do that evangelism, and then engage with them and expect at least 12 months of cycle to go through for you to make sure. Now, this is like a trophy strategy, right? And you have to actually be a little more sophisticated. If you're a first time founder, either you will build this, either you will hire someone who knows this and then do it in 12 months. But if you are like a first time founder and if you're doing this on your own, like, for experienced people, it is going to take 10 to 12 months. For you, it means that you'll spend 2, 3 years in just learning this and then eventually doing it in 10 to 12 months, right? I'll just give one more example and then we'll stop. So this is another company called Communicate, which does a lot of voice chatbot automation. This was before the voice chatbot space exploded. But then they again ask this question of saying, where do their customers hang out? How do they buy? And what messaging resonates? What they found was, in their case, it was neither too new custom, neither it was too commodity. It was somewhere in between. It was in the space of going from very, very magical novel product to being like, more standardized product. So what they saw was there is a lot of content that is available, even though the category is not well defined, but there is a lot of problem awareness. So who gets involved? A technical buyer, who a product manager gets involved, and a VP of customer experience gets involved, and a finance lead comes in and then decides whether budget needs to be allocated or not, because this is not like a budgeted category. And what happens, the messaging that resonates is that, in this case, it was the technical buyer who was the most important in making the purchase happen, because he was looking for something that can work very closely with Google's Dialogflow. And if that integration was there, then they were picking that, right? So that was the messaging that resonated. So one of the things that this team understood is that, like, not all revenue are equal, and those PMs for whom this Dialogflow was key, that segmentation that they were able to do, and that led them to focus on that particular segment, which was which is called as the 40K or the 6K segment. I mean, they had all kinds of customers. They had customers who were paying them $120. They had customers who were paying them 40K and $6K. And then the $6K and the $40K customer, they started focusing on. They realized that the message that resonates for us is the Dialogflow. And then they continue to do the combination of some amount of evangelism and then making sure that, they've gotten their inbound properly set up. So that's how Communicate was able to improve, which is like better segmentation and ensuring that, they are focusing on a higher ACV customer so that, they're able to get to their revenue goal faster, right? So yeah, so just to recap, right? What are the things that we spoke about so far? Like, from a GTM perspective, pick one ICP segments that resonates with your differentiation in the positioning. Have a global market. It's a good idea to not go after, if you're like a first time founder, something which involves 10 to 12 months, something which is less than 3 months, and look for if they have early adopter categories. Now, if you are someone who has just gotten started, like, about less than 30 customers, then I would say that, focus on your first 3, 10, 30 customers. And in the first 3, 10 that happens, there is no playbook available for that. It has to happen through founder's hustle, through his network. And once you get the 3 sale happen, this next 7 sale happen, then you will have very good answers to where do they hang out, how do they buy. Based on that, keep tweaking like how Recruity tweaked, keep tweaking like how Communicate tweaked. Now, if you're more than 100K customer, then you can do this part even more sophisticatedly, right? So you constantly keep redefining your segment based on your go to market, your jobs to be done. Then look at what is your next goal. For that next goal, is it easy for you to go after a segment A, or which is like maybe $1,000 ACV, or is it a segment B, which is a $30,000 ACV, right? And then based on the existing category and what are the trends that are shifting, you choose a combination of inbound or outbound or a sales process based on that. All right, so I'm going to stop here. I hope I was within the time, Shashi.
Yeah, no, you did very well. I learned also a lot from your presentation, Rajan. So thank you. I'll hand it over to Dhanasri. I saw some questions coming in. So Dhanasri, why don't you moderate the question session?
Yeah. Sashi, just one question. So I was not the host. So if you're seeing more questions, I don't see them.
Oh, you don't see them? Hold on 1 second. Maybe I should make you the host, Dhanasri.
I don't know if I can see the questions then, but sure.
Let me try.
But just for everyone who has asked a question, can you please reshare, re-ask your questions so that we can see it again, and you can just make it to the host or the meeting group chat, please.
No, I will, while you're pulling that, I will take the first question so we can get going, okay?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I
can you see
the
can you
question,
see the,
Sashi. Yeah, I can read it for Rajan to answer.
okay, go ahead,
So
Shekhar.
my dog is barking
Yeah.
in the background, but how do you experiment with the message resonates with your ICP? How do you imbibe it in your sales deck for enterprise clients?
Yeah, messaging positioning is a fantastic topic, right? So I spend a lot of time. I actually take a separate session with the cohorts that I work with just on positioning and messaging, right? So I have a hack for messaging. The hack for messaging is that I go to an existing customer and I would ask them saying, "How would you describe my product to a friend?" Right? I would either go and talk to them and record this and then say, okay, use your own words and describe it to me, or I would send them an email if they're not available, to talk in person. And when I do this, and then if I'm recording it, I literally transcribe it and then talk to at least 10 of them, 5 to 10 of them, take the transcript and look for keywords that they are using, right? And when I take those keywords and then I put it, and then I go back to another new customer and then I see head nods with them, then I know that I've nailed a message, right? And that is one of the best ways that I have found on how to get the messaging right from a product perspective. I know I've given a very high, like a 5,000 feet view to this, but I hope that answers your question, Shekhar.
Dhanasri, can you see the questions now?
Yeah, I don't see any new questions, but yeah. So, Rajan, I actually had one question. Can I ask?
Hey,
Please.
of course.
Yeah. So, I also work as a product marketer at an AI startup. So, like, I don't know, but recently I've been seeing like a lot of new products coming into the market who say that, AI is gonna change the GTM, AI is gonna change the GTM implementation strategies. Like, a small company is able to do a lot more. So, how are you seeing AI is changing GTM? Do you think that GTM engineers or AI will become a norm? Do you see like AI is it just like a lot of like speed of implementation with no, actual output? Like, how do you see it?
Yeah. So, fantastic question. In fact, Shashi and I were talking about it when we were designing the topic title. And we kept it to just basic GTM, and then initially we were talking about saying that okay, let's talk about the AI GTM part. We said there might not be enough time. We'll just focus on the GTM part. But this is something that I'm very fascinated by as a question. So here are a few things that I would say, Dhanashree. So see if you break down GTM to the definition that I shared, a little more concrete version is like match your selling process to how they are buying, right? So then that means the most critical question to ask is how is the fact of how they are buying changing, right? Because of the AI product, are you seeing any changes in how people are buying, right? And I would tell you that I'm seeing at least 3 types, right? I mean, maybe there are only 2 types. So one is that see what does AI enable? AI enables a certain like if you look at post ChatGPT, before that there was AI, right? If you had to build an AI application, an intelligent application, you had to hire armies of engineers, spend $10 million, make sure that the intelligent works, and then the use case that works on top, you should see that both of them are working together. And then when you're doing a startup, you want to also see if the product market fit for the use case is working. But you still had to spend $10 million to figure out whether the intelligence is working or not. What AI has done right now is AI has taken the intelligence below the API, which means that anybody who can code an API can actually see AI. I mean, can build applications using AI. Now that means that you don't have to spend $10 million. Now this intelligence, so far, whenever somebody built AI application, they were imagining that this was possible, but now it is actually possible that you are getting magical experiences, right? And as a product person, like what I always say is that when you're designing experience, you have to have like wow moments. But like wow moment is like when you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, I get it. This is fantastic. I'm hooked now. I'm going to continue to use the product. But with AI, what is happening is that wow has become like 10x or 100x. So what is happening right now is there is this there is a release of this demand where people are like, oh, this is so magical, I don't even knew that this was possible. So what people are doing is people are going ahead and trying out a lot of new things because you are seeing unprecedented magical experiences. Now if it is a Suno.ai where you put in a prompt in 2 minutes, you are able to generate a song which otherwise would take 6 weeks and maybe $50,000 to create a song. So now just happening in 2 minutes, you're like, go, wow, this is magical, right? So now this magical is going to such an extent that people are just willing to try out all different kind of things, whether it is Suno.ai or whether it is a Windsurf ID or whether it is a Cursor ID. So the buying process amongst the early adopter community for anything magical is just going bonkers right now. So if you look at like things like Cursor or Windsurf, developer AI is the one that has the highest adoption right now. In fact, if you look at the study that Anthropic released 2 weeks ago, developer AI and writing are the 2 highest used use cases across, right? So in those places, there are magical experiences happening. The buying pattern is changing. 5 years ago, if you built a startup, people would say never build a startup targeting developer because they never pay. But that is getting flipped on its head because developers are paying to try out all these new magical experiences that are happening. So when you see changes in how people are buying, then how you have to sell has to change. So the focus for the founding team should be on saying, okay, if people are looking at a magical experience and willing to put the credit card and use is what the process is, then you need to continue to sort of map to that. Now, I'm sure you would have heard that Cursor got to 100 million run rate in two years, right? No amount of sales and marketing, right, can ever reach that, right? You will not be able to hire enough sales guys and marketing guys in the less than 2 years, you can get $100 million in revenue. But it was such a magical experience, and then they just made it product-led, let people to experience the product and then get adopted. It led to that. Now, the same thing did not happen for Devin, right? Even though Devin was like very, very high. So you have to actually understand where it is in terms of the buying process and the selling process has to be mapped. The second one is that what I'm seeing is what is not changing is enterprise buying. So in the enterprise, there is so much FOMO top down that, like, the boards want to know what is our AI strategy. Now, actually, I wrote a blog post yesterday saying that now no more enterprises want AI strategy. They want agentic AI strategy. Just when we thought that the AI strategy is going to go from slides to implementation, now agents have come in. So now everybody in the board, like, I've gotten a few calls saying that, what is our agentic AI strategy? But there, the pattern of buying is FOMO at the board level, translates to the CEO. From the CEO, it goes to the like group manager, SCPs, and then further on, and then like everybody is like, okay, what are we going to do about AI and agentic? In that, the classic enterprise sales of excellent sales guy who's selling a new trend, where you are doing this proto narrative that I talked about. The old world was this, and the new world is this. And that sales has happened since the days of Oracle, so that has not changed. I know this was like a long answer. The third pattern that I'm seeing is the way people are combining software and services is changing. Earlier, like, if you sold a software product, it would never touch the headcount budget. But now the software budget and the headcount budget are getting mixed up, and nobody has a clue, right? No one has a clue of how this is going to pan out. Every investors that I see in Valley, they are putting out reports. We've also put out a report last year saying software and services. Somebody is calling a services a software. So software and services are getting combined, that the budgets are getting combined. So where does a Salesforce stop and where does an Accenture start is actually getting mixed up. But that is again like increasing the TAM. There again, it is very, very relationship driven, like where people already knew and had a relationship with someone is where they are buying things from. So I would always go back to the fundamentals. I always look at things from the fundamentals. GTM means how is your selling mapping to how the customers are buying, and how are the customers buying changing.
That makes sense. Thank you so much for answering it. So the next question is from Aman Beniwal. Aman, is it possible for you to unmute yourself and ask the question? And Rajan has shared the question.
Sure, Dhanashree. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah.
Uh,
Go ahead, Aman.
Hi, Rajan. Thank you so much for this really insightful session. My question is with respect to the enterprise sales. One of the point you just cleared out with Dhanashree's question is that we were able to had 4 customers and start their POCs with founder driven sales, but we are not very sure how to scale it up and how to make it systematic. We kind of dived in head first and sort of made things work, but how to scale it up properly so that we can acquire most customers in the given time.
What is the ACV for these 4 customers, annual contract value, for the POCs or like full sale?
So that can range from 100K to 1 million for each of these
My
customers.
suggestion is that till you do 40, don't hire anybody, just do the founder sale. If you identify yourself closer to customs, which is like very magical new category, this has to be an evangelical sale, right? 4 is fantastic. Like you can start seeing some patterns of what is happening. Like do a mapping of what I showed you in terms of constant, saying that when did you first meet the customer, who did he talk to, why did he do this, who was involved, right? How did this purchase happen, right? What were they looking at as a KPI? So map their entire buying process, and from 4, and then start looking for something that you can replicate there. But in terms of scaling, I would say the scaling question is too early to ask, especially when you are in a newer category. This is an evangelical sale. So till you get to about 30 customers, don't bring in external salespeople.
Okay. Can I have a follow-up question on it? Because we are having this discussion. So we are figuring out. So we used FOMO as the strategy that you mentioned in C-suites executive to push them to try out our products. We have POCs, and this is still a stage where we are having a product market fit. We are trying out different solutions, whichever works, whichever can give best benefit to customers. So that is a point where we are still figuring what solution to work. So it is so our company is lying still in a service industry, or we are giving services to figure things out, but we want to eventually make products that can be scaled across all the customers. So this was another part. How should we transition from a service to a product in an enterprise customer?
Was your question about FOMO, or is your question about how to transition from services to products?
Transition. FOMO was the niche that we are using.
It's a slightly longer conversation, but I will tell you my shorter answer, which you may not like, which is that, don't worry about the service to product transition right now. Right? I mean, I've seen a lot of founders get caught up in terms of the services to product transition and then saying that I want to do services to product. If you watch the numbers of public companies, right, you will see that 30 to 40% of them is like services. Now the second part to this is that because of AI, the boundary line between where service stops, where product starts, is again becoming even more murkier, right? My definition of services versus product is something where you can scale the business without scaling the headcount. If you are stuck in a place where you have to scale the business by scaling the headcount, then it is a services business. Otherwise, I wouldn't worry too much about services product. But it is a very nuanced, longer conversation. You have to know your business to actually say whether this generic statement applies to you or not.
Thank you so much, Rajan. Super helpful.
Shashi, is it possible for us to take one more question?
Let's take one more.
Yeah,
Yep.
sure. So the next question is from Deepu Ghosh. Deepu, are you able to turn on your ask the question?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, Deepu.
Okay. Hello, Rajan. Thank you very much. It was a very interesting talk. I am in a regulated industry and make a liver diagnostics product. I was wondering, all the elements of the GTM that you listed, they still apply in a regulated market, right? Or is there anything different?
No, absolutely. See, I mean, the generic, the high level framework that I gave, which is very first principle way of thinking about this, is that how do your customers buy? In regulated industry, the regulatory body gets involved, that step gets added in the purchase process, right? So unless it is certified by a regulation, the purchase is not going to happen, right? And most people very intuitively understand this. In a regulated industry, therefore, the cycles are much longer, right? It may be longer than 12 months because you have to go through that regulation. The important thing to work on in places like this is to have expectation about how long the sales cycle takes. A lot of time, what ends up happening is that, when we think about planning a startup, the runway for the startup and then the sales cycles are not kept into factor. Right? If your sales cycles are longer than the runway that you have, right, then it is like buying a half ticket to London, right? So that's the only thing that I would add to this, saying what is your sales cycle if you are in a regulated industry? I don't know, what's the sales cycle? I'm guessing it is more than 12 months. That has to be factored in. And the other thing that I would also say is that how can you influence that regulated purchase decision? For instance, could you be someone who is organizing webinars like this on trying to understand that regulation, therefore coming across as a thought leader, thus influencing the purchase decision, right? So this is again, just goes back to saying, how does the purchase decision work, and how can you actually influence that purchase decision? How can you actually align your selling process to that purchase decision so that purchase happens, revenue into your company comes, growth happens fast.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rajan. Sincerely appreciate it. Please, all of you, stay through. Tanushree, I'll hand it over to you for the review of the pitch session. And Rajan, if you can stay, love to have you here. But if you cannot, I would understand. So thank you so much, Rajan, for your insightful conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Shashi. I'll stay for a few minutes. Thank you, Tanushree, and thank you for the wonderful questions.
It was a really amazing session. So we'll just move on to the next part, which Shashi really mentioned that we had a pitch competition. We received a lot of interest, and I'll just share a little bit, about the pitch competition. So we received amazing responses from a lot of startups, but out of those startups, we reviewed all of them, and we have finalized 2 decks to talk about in this session, and others will receive feedback via email. Now, we will go through all of them, both the startups one by one. So when your startup name is called, please turn on your camera and mic and start having the conversation. A little bit about, Shashi, that, why he is the perfect person to, share your pitch deck and get feedback from. So Shashi currently is a managing partner at Nurture Growth Fund. He's a 3x serial entrepreneur. He has three successful startups. So he knows in and out about, everything that, how to ideate, how to create a pitch deck, how to create how to get customers, and then how to showcase your idea as a perfect, amazing idea to VCs. This is an opportunity for you to understand how get an insight from your VC perspective to your idea and to your pitch decks. And apart from that, he has a breadth of experience in multiple industries, from life science companies, hospital, health plans, etc., etc. So over to you, Shashi. I think we can. Do you have any preference for any of the pitch decks, or should I just call?
Just call anyone. I mean, we can go into INEC. And what I would say, INEC team, if you come on online, I'm not expecting you to do the full pitch. I have a slide given to me. Just share what you do, what business you are in, and any specific area you're looking help in the pitch. And then I'm happy to provide my color comment. And Rajan is there. I would love to hear his thought also on the pitch deck, as long as he can stay. So, Ramesh, floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Shashi. The idea of INEC is essentially to make hearing ubiquitous. Right? One of the challenges that why I took on this problem was that I've had lots of friends and family, mostly family, that's been dealing with hearing loss, and I see that the current solutions, and we've been through quite a few of them, are just not adequate in terms of solving the problem, especially in challenging environments, whether it be like, family gatherings, whether it be, like in a restaurant, in a noisy kind of restaurant, or in an airport. It's just that it just doesn't work. And you find that the people who are dealing with it, these are, in my case, it's like my mother-in-law is the most impacted one that I've been watching closely. Somebody who really loves to talk, somebody who has lots of stories to share, goes back into a shell. So it's almost like you've taken away a good part of their life and, taken a big hit on the quality of life. So that's the problem that I really want to solve. And I'm coming from a world of augmented and virtual reality. I built that team at Qualcomm and led it for 10 years. And there are concepts in there of, environmental understanding and also having a general perception of the noises and such that can be brought into eyewear. The other thing is that eyewear, so I'm trying to essentially incorporate the solution of hearing into eyewear. This has been done most recently in a couple other companies that actually have been acquired by Luxottica. Or at least what I find interesting about our solution is that it's trying to do a little more in terms of incorporating vision and inertial sensing along with microphones, and also using AI to really understand human behavior and human interactions in trying to construct how hearing would happen.
What is your expectation in terms of pitch deck from me? If you have any, if you don't, I'm happy to provide general comment.
Well, in overall, sort of a critique on the pitch deck would obviously be welcome. I want to make sure that what I have said there, especially in the go-to-market pieces, and also in how I'm introducing the technology, seem reasonable for somebody who's trying to invest. So to tell you a bit, I don't know if you recall, I'd asked you a question in the first session about, can I go for a $2.5 million type of, seed funding? And you had suggested, and I actually incorporated that into my deck. You suggested going to two-stage funding of a pre-seed and then a seed. And I'm doing that, and it simplifies things a little bit. Like I'm asking for a 500K to an MVP for 6 months, and then I go for another 1.3 million after that. I feel like it's a better story when you have an MVP at hand in order to do the next raising. So I think that was all feedback from you that I already incorporated. But other than that, anything that you can tell me, would be great, because it's not often that VCs come back and tell you what is wrong with your deck. So,
my goal is not to tell you what's wrong. My goal is to improve. And Rajan, let me share that two pitch deck to you, so you have some idea to review also. Bear with me.
I did send a later version to Priyank.
Yes.
I don't know if you already have that. I sent one probably yesterday.
Yeah, Sashi has the latest.
Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
I have it.
Awesome.
So, thank you, Ramesh. I mean, if you attended, Ramesh, the last session where Parthiv talked about pitch deck. And if you recall, one of the messages he gave was, when you're doing your pitch, create the story. And when you are presenting through all the slides, what is one thing or two things you want to get to the investor? He also mentioned that most investors, by the way, especially the institutional ones, they are looking 40 to 50 different pitches per month. They literally, I'm not kidding, and I include myself into it. I don't have the span of time to go through I'm just glancing through it. One of the things I saw in your pitch, you have too much information. I will share this just so we all can see it. I'll share your presentation.
No, please.
Share. Can you all see it? My screen?
Not yet.
It's coming up. Yes, now it's visible.
So if you glance through it, Ramesh, you have a lot of information here. Too much. I'm not kidding. I would cut it in like 60 to 70%. I'll take it out.
Okay.
So that's one comment I'll make. The second comment I'll make is, if you remember, let me unshare and share the Parthiv slide. I'm sorry, I keep coming back and forth. Share. If you remember this slide, what he talked about, is very important for when you create a pitch deck to follow the standard template. Because we human beings, we as the investors, are expecting certain standard into the flow. In fact, to the point, I'll even say that call the slide as a problem solution, the title of the slide. So we are so used to this flow, it becomes very easier. Think about, if I'm looking 40 different pitch deck per month, going to the slide and trying to look for which one is the problem slide. If I already see the title problem, I know, okay, this is the problem founder is trying to solve. So follow this sequence is very important, but in my view. And title according to that. I mean, yes, you can have some variation because every startup, every business is different. Some variation is fine, but having some level of sequence and standard always help. And believe me, Ramesh, that most VCs are expecting this type of sequence and standard. So title that way: problem, solution, market, product, business model, finance, GTM, traction. So that's very important, Ramesh, in my view.
Okay.
And Rajan, I know you are online, so I don't know if you have any comment on the first slide I shared with you. Rajan, are you there?
No, we don't see Rajan on.
Okay, he left. Okay,
He's in
okay.
the India time zone anyway, so.
Yeah, he's pretty late. So let me share your thing again. Share. So that's the high level comment. Am I making sense, Ramesh?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
This is extremely useful. Thank you.
Yep. And the other piece you have to think the investor psyche. What are they looking? Their main goal is they're giving money to you, am I right?
Mhm.
And their main goal is in 4, 6, 7, 8 years, you're giving them, if they gave you one, they're expecting to multiply that money 4 times, 5 times, 10 times, 30 times. Am I right?
Mhm.
Part of that 4 to 7 year, they're looking for where is the risk? If you're going to disrupt, you're coming with the new product, new services, you're going to change, am I right? Into the current workflow, the way people are using it. How are you going to do that? That's very important for them to hear. And so how can you minimize the risk? And minimizing the risk can be multiple things. You can bring new customers. You already have done early validation. You brought good team with you. And it's not just you, but who are you bringing with you? Who are the co-founders? Who are the board? Who is the advisor? That's also important to highlight. So when I go on your team slide, like here, you've done a good job here. But again, a lot of information is very hard for me to read right now. When I read this management team, cut the anything which you think is not necessary and add only area where you think is helpful for your company. Any other experience may not be useful. Add only information which is useful to the product and the company you are trying to launch.
Okay.
So that's one thing I'll say. Execution plan. Pilot launch. Okay, this one is a good slide, but again, too much information. It's like fund required. In general, I'll cut the content. Management team, business model. So business model, for example, all we are looking for is how you're going to make money.
Mhm.
In the business model slide, you don't need to specify this is how much you will have it by particular year. There's a new slide for that financial projections. You can add that under the financial projection slide. Don't combine 2, 3 things into one thing.
Okay.
Business model is a very simple how we are going to make money. That's basically it. So this is how you can cut the content you have on your slide. Market size is a good slide. Current status. All you're explaining. Yeah, those are the comments I'll make. I hope I'm making sense, Ramesh.
Yes, absolutely. No, this is extremely useful.
Yeah, even the picture you have, I mean, I didn't get it. Maybe you have some idea, but just by having it here, maybe because you have too much information here on this slide, all this thing you have, even change the background. This black background is not helping me read. It's not eye pleasing. I mean, think about. I'll share with the presentation which Parthiv did. Look how pleasing it is to eyes. The font, the background, even the picture he has. It's like I want
Sure.
to read it. Your presentation, like I have to put my eyes, and it's kind of a little bit pain to my eyes to read.
Okay. Yeah, that was black. Black was a choice. I can see certainly take that input as something that can potentially be offensive. So I can fix that. Yeah.
Yeah, so make it easier to read. Less the better, by the believe me, most founders think more the better. No, mark my word, every slide you're writing, Ramesh, think about what you can cut, not what you can put.
Mm-hmm.
And always remember what you are trying to communicate to the investor. Every slide you're writing has to follow into a story. So first put in your brain, what is 2 things you want to communicate to the investor? And make sure that every slide is attaching to those 2. theme you're trying to communicate to the investor. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Okay, so let me see here. Like here you have a hearing. I'll call it problem. What? Just say problem slide. Call it solution slide. Value prop. I'm trying to see if I can add any more color to here. Business model is fine. Go to market plan. Again, go to market. You have too many numbers. It's hard to comprehend which one is what. Competitive landscape is fine. Management team is fine. Fund required. The slide 14 and slide 15 has similar common information. In slide 14, you're talking also about the fundraise, and in slide 15, you're talking about funds required.
Yeah, I was trying to round up, what I'm asking, because I thought you need a separate ask slide that
No,
explicitly.
ask is very important, but you have to have the ask.
Right.
And as an investor, you are showing where you're going to use that is important. But what more important to me is what that money is going to take you to. Is it going to launch your product? Is it going to give you 10 customers? That's more important to me than what you're going to use for. What you're going to use for is important, don't get me wrong, but what more important is what that money is useful in minimizing my risk, in multiplying my money.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else on the call? Any other feedback? I'll share the presentation so you all can see it. Anyone? Questions, comment? Anything I shared you liked, not liked?
Shashi, I really liked the initial narrative which Ramesh gave. It established that he's really invested in the problem. It's closely relatable to his heart, and he has all the like strong experience and expertise to pull it off. So that starting part is one amazing thing that I've heard. The rest is all the feedbacks that you have given. That was a good part.
No, I would agree with that comment, Ramesh. Your passion is there. And I'll tell you another thing. When you spoke, does not translate into the pitch deck.
Okay.
You spoke.
I realize that, in fact, like all engineers, you tend to build the pitch deck first, and then the right way to go about it is to build the narrative first and then build the slides to support the narrative.
You
Yeah.
spoke very nicely, by the way. I
Thank you.
totally agree with that. So I think you will resonate well when you speak online, but think about this pitch deck is going without you.
Yeah.
So even if you have a good story about, we are human beings, we relate to human more. If you have any story where your product added some value, create that video even for 30-second video on your pitch deck.
I'm doing that right now.
Yeah. So I think I agree with that comment. Any other comment?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I haven't seen the pitch deck, but great idea here, Ramesh. One thing I was wondering is, was there a competitive landscape as well? Sorry if I missed that.
Yeah,
There is.
yeah, I have it here. I will bring this up. Here it is. So, Ramesh, good job. I think what you're building is amazing. Keep up the good work. Your passion is there, clearly it's visible. So we'll switch it over to the next one, Dhanasri.
Yeah, the Blue Economy AI.
Yes, Dhanashree.
Yeah.
Go ahead, share brief about Blue Economy AI.
Sure, Shashi. So we have started our project to help ports automate their decision-making process. Currently, port has so essentially container ports. Among ports, we are targeting container ports, and they do have to juggle a lot of things in order to make things work. World is translating towards automating the ports or getting humans out of the loop as much as possible. One of the prime reason is this is a old industry, 100 150 year old, and things are going linearly. But since the recent international events, which also includes pandemic, international crisis, sanctions, a lot of the supply chain has disrupted, and its impact is clearly visible to the end customers. Shipments are being delayed, semiconductor prices are rising, so on and so forth. So clearly there's a need for optimizing the ports or making the ports more capable in to handle their supply chains. So by that time, and creating infrastructure, making more infrastructure is a time and monetary consuming process. It takes years and years, sometimes up to decades, to make things work. So in the meantime, the entire industry is craving for soft solutions. There are conferences going on internationally. The India government of India just started the first chapter of the conference, Sagar Manthan, just to highlight over this point, and the entire world is talking about it, at least in the industry. We clearly saw it as an opportunity. We had certain mentors, we had certain people who guided us about it to navigate it, and we started to work on it. We initially thought of picking a small problem, that is berth allocation, allocating the right vessels at the right berth in order to reduce the turnaround time of vessels, because that is the money making avenue for ports. And with that problem, we went to different ports, we did a lot of groundworks, visited ports, spent a lot of time, and then finally we were successfully able to acquire 3 customer chains. One is Adani Ports. So I am currently in Mundra, that is Adani's biggest port. 45% of its entire revenue is being generated from Mundra. Another one is Deen Dayal Port Authority. So that is government's major port. Mumbai Port Authority. Then Dhruv Kotak's JM Bakshi Group. So we were able to onboard these 4 customers. We essentially used the hook of fear of missing out to the chairmen and CEOs of the company, that see there is clearly a process, as there's clearly a lag, and ports, by the way, work at a 70%, 60 to 70% operational efficiency, and the rest missing cost, they just consider it as a cost of business. Whatever they are missing out, whatever business they are not able to do, they just consider it as a, they have accepted. So even if we can small a fraction of we can help them save a fraction of it, it will translate to millions and millions of dollars on a daily basis revenue for each port. So clearly a big enough TAM, a big enough serviceable market, and we'll be providing, so will not be disrupting the entire ecosystem, but we'll be an integrator on top of current terminal operating systems to help them more efficient and decision capable. Yeah, that's a briefing
Okay.
about us.
Okay. No, thank you. Thank you so much, Aman. You have done a good job, at least look and feel, but I would still say some of the slides are too crowded, like the team slide here, too crowded. I'll simplify this as much you can. And again, I'll repeat back. When you have too much on the slide, human tendency is not to read anything. Simple, especially this slide, I will simplify it. You have done a good job, I would say, on the slides. Let me see where I can provide some. So this is a problem slide you're trying to explain. This is a solution slide. This is solution, traction, and milestone. Investor care more about, of course, the name is good. Adani brand is very good, but also dollar value. Put here, what is the ACP here? And it's okay to put even range if you're not sure about, because this is a POC. any place, and this is a feedback to all of you guys, any place you can put dollar numbers, we investor tend to like it. So brand is important, don't get me wrong, but here for these three, if you have anything ACP and highlight that, everything else is not important to investor. What you are going, the use case, they may ask the question to you and you can explain. But more important is how much money this customer is going to give it to you. Put that here somehow. Go to market strategy, India domination, Asia domination, global. Here, go to market strategy. I'm looking. You heard the information from Rajan today, am I right? I would suggest, based on that speak today, Aman, you will change this slide drastically, by the way. And I feel it, you will do it. So some of the recommendation he made today, use that learning and change the slides completely. These projections are important you have in the bottom, but not so much here. I mean, here, what I'm looking for as an investor, how you're going to go acquire the customer. This global and expansion and domination is good, but I'm looking for in next 6 months, 1 year, 2 year, how you're going to acquire the customer. What I'm also looking for, the POC you have, how you're going to convert that into real customer. So those are the information I would put. And as I repeat, based on the session today, I'm pretty sure you will change this.
Yes.
The market and customer top 100 ports. I don't know what are you trying to display or communicate here other than, okay, you have 100 ports. What do I do with this? So maybe relate this back to your go-to-market strategy slide.
Yes.
Our market size is good, business model is good, competition is good, the product. So I would put the product slide right where the solution needs to go. So you have to follow. Remember, I shared earlier that follow that sequence. There's a reason that sequence is so important, by the way. Product,
Yes.
problem, solution. Follow that sequence because, again, I repeat, investors, we want to look for those sequence. And if you alter those sequence, and you can alter, by the way, but ask the question why I'm altering the sequence. If there's a valid reason, do it. But if there's not, follow the sequence. Okay. The product, the team, the fund. Again, too much information here on, by the way. You have raised 7 million, you are raising 1.2. I don't need to know what this is, all this detail, too much information here.
This particular slide was the one that we got certain feedbacks. In a seed or pre-seed round, we won't be able to get the entire 1.2 million that we are asking for. So you should break it down in a part. What if you'll get 200K or 500K? So kind of presented in a pricing model sort of slide, relatable lookout. But
I
if
would just
investors,
put one thing you're looking for, not 10 things. Just put 500. We are looking for 500K, and 500K will take us to where? Will generate, I don't know, I'm just picking something. Will take us convert the 4 POC into real customers. And by that time, we'll have a revenue of, I don't know, $1 million or $1.2 million. I would remove the clutter. Okay.
sure.
So anyway, that's my thoughts, comment. Anyone from the audience? Any comments, thoughts? Anyone? If not, I think we are right on the time also. Dhanasri, anything, or Priyank, or any the organizing committee, anything you want to share?
I think nothing from my end. Priyank, if you would love to share something.
Yeah, definitely. So this brings us to the end of our three-part bootcamp series, and I would say this was an amazing journey for all of us. Um, Starting for me, who is not as familiar with this VC world, just to get the terminology and some of the conventions that are used in the industry, like we heard is so many times today in this pitch deck. I think that is a great takeaway for all of us who is planning to take a dive. Every industry has conventions, so yes, we have to follow. And I like the point you made. If it needs to be changed, give a really good reason for it, and yeah, go ahead, change it. Amazing. And I think with that, I would say I also want to thank the other speakers, Shashi, Rajan, and and hope we can connect with them again in the future. And hope we can do this more. We have the video recordings, but would love to hear feedback from all the participants, what they liked about it and what they like to see more in the future. So that helps our organizing committee to put more valuable events like this for our community. Thank you all for your time, and have a great weekend.
No, one thing I'll say, Priyank, thank you, by the way. You, Priyank, and the organizing committee, Shekhar, Dhanasri, Anupam, you guys have worked very hard behind the scene. I could see in the WhatsApp messages, and I thoroughly have enjoyed it. I've got many feedback on my LinkedIn, and I hope these 3 sessions have added some values to you audience. And I hope you take these learnings and go create some great things into the world and the community and change the society and change the community. Always, it's a pleasure. It's like a proud moment. I feel so happy that I was part of these 3 web series. As Priyank mentioned, please provide your feedback, good or bad, or improvement. And I appreciate your time also. It's not easy to give up your time on the weekend. So thank you, all of you. And it has been such a pleasure being part of this journey. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks to the organizing team as well.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.